Hello everyone, I am Tessellating Hexagons, or Hexagon on Mosaica if you prefer, because, well, yesterday, entirely out of nowhere, and while we were preparing for a completely different country's national final, we had an announcement right out of the blue from France, just deciding to spice up our afternoon by saying, hey, we've picked our song, by the way. So, yeah. That kind of happened with no fanfare. I mean, last year we had kind of suspense saying, oh, we're going to announce in December, no, we're going to announce in March, no, January, no, now, and then they announced Amir, and then that happened. This year it was just, oh, here's our song. Which, I mean, okay, you definitely caught us by surprise, France, but does their song hold up? Well, first of all, it's performed by Alexandra Maquet, otherwise known as Alma, and the song is called Requiem, or Requiem. It's the French word for Requiem, which is spelled the same in English. It means Requiem. It's entirely in French, as is tradition, and music and lyrics by Nazim Khaled, who also wrote Je Cherche, which I didn't point out last year because this is the first year I've been acknowledging composers and lyricists, but hey, friend of the French people, apparently. In fact, I think he is French, so that would explain a lot. Anyway, first impressions of this song. Hot damn, France is going in hard again. It just goes to show that their new head of delegation, is it Eduardo Grassi? Am I mixing him up with someone else? Because that sounds like a football person. Me in post-production, would you mind confirming what the name of the head of delegation is? Thanks. Okay, well, the new head of delegation, who's been doing his job since last year was his first year, clearly, he knows what he's doing. It proves that Je Cherche wasn't just a fluke, if this is his follow-up to that. So yeah, France are back in the limelight, and they mean business. Good grief. I admit, I was expecting something impressive for exactly that reason. And despite what one might think, based on France's comparatively recent history at Eurovision, Alma absolutely delivers on those expectations. Just like Amir, she's current, she's cool, she's got her own style, and she's also friends with Nazim Khaled, who, besides her and Amir, has also written for fan-favourite non-participant for France, Kenji Girac. So, whether it's because of just the singer, or because of the song, or a combination of the two, or because of her connections, I think France is onto a good thing here. And you know what? I'm happy. Good for you, France. You're doing good for you, France. Good job, France. This sounds patronising, doesn't it? No, sincerely, I like your song. But why do I like your song? That was a strange segue on my part. But yes, what are the points that I like about the song? Well, I'll start with the biggest standout thing that I love about this song. It's rhythm. Okay, it already stands out from most of the songs chosen so far, and even once we have all 43 songs in Kiev, I still think it will stand out, both because of the rhythm and because of its attitude and aesthetic, because, yeah, it's upbeat in what is currently not so much a sea, so much as a small pond of ballads. So it stands out as it is, and I think its attitude will help it stick out even further in a good way. The music video shows a couple dancing in various impossible locations throughout Paris, like on the wall and across the ceiling and on like the inside of one of the arches of the Eiffel Tower. It's stylized stuff, and I'd imagine that the live staging will probably at least try to include something similar there, because it's going to be a big stage. It's going to be, France's opportunity to show the world, hey, this is what we're made of. And I imagine that they're going to take the live staging idea of, oh, we're going to do some fancy dancing on the wall. That was the worst way I could have demonstrated that, but I'd imagine they're going to do something fairly special with that, rather than just having a couple dancing behind her. But if they do plump for that, then I imagine they'll still find some way of making that pretty special. On an entirely different kind of aesthetic level, this is probably absolutely just a me thing, but I love how the song is called Requiem, which, for those who don't know, is typically a song written for someone in memory of their life, which is then to be played at their funeral. So yeah, the song is called Requiem, which sounds fairly gloomy, but the title is only used as part of a metaphor in the lyrics. And so, despite those gloomy connotations, it's actually an upbeat, fun, still serious enough, but fun, upbeat song. And there's another thought, the lyrics themselves. I admit, I'm not as fluent in French as I would like to be, especially since I do have some French heritage myself. But from what I can understand of it, there's some quality stuff in there. I mean, I sound surprised, but I mean, this is France. They take pride in their language, and I respect that. But yeah, really good lyrics from what I can tell. Really interesting material, and really well phrased. Overall, not to quote the German national final ad nauseam, but this is my favourite song so far. That said, though, that doesn't mean that I think it's perfect. So what don't I like about it, then? Well, in all sincerity, I don't think there's anything that I can fault the song itself on. okay, maybe depending on your tolerances, it might get a bit repetitive by the end, but I seem to recall saying that about Amir's song as well, and that came, 6th? So Europe's average repetition threshold can clearly handle something like this. My main concerns, let's call them, stem from, admittedly, the only live performance that I've seen of this song, and there is a link to that in the video description. Live, there are 3 things that strike me in particular. One big, one medium-sized, and one little. The little thing is, it does seem that her enjoyment of performing the song, that feels like it interferes with the performance itself, at least a little bit. That might just be me, I don't know, there's something about, like, when the song starts, she's all smiles and giggles, even though, I mean, it starts seriously enough? Could just be me. Anyway, the medium-sized thing is that her breathing is a little bit off, which I know that sounds like a really petty thing if you're not a vocal coach, and I mean, I'm not, but I've studied the contest for long enough, so I can get away with talking about it, but the way she breathes while she's singing, you can kind of hear it in how she sings some of the lines. It's nothing that plenty of rehearsals can't fix, but for now, it's got me ever so slightly worried, but it's fixable. I shouldn't be worrying. But the main thing, the big thing, the sudden high notes, especially in the song's hook, the circular donné part, she doesn't miss them necessarily, but they do feel a little bit lacking in punch, or maybe a little bit flat. Maybe it's just the texture of her voice. I'm not sure, but it does feel like that's something that needs a little bit of work, but again, that's what rehearsals are for. It shouldn't be an issue. Besides all of this, despite what I've said before, I do wonder how they actually do plan on staging this live. I did say, there are some obvious ideas that they could roll with based on the music video, but that's kind of more of a conceptual thing. I'm not entirely sure how that could be brought to life live in, like, actual concrete beat-by-beat terms. Still, I do think they'll find a way without too much trouble. I'm just worried that either it'll be her by herself, maybe with one couple dancing in the background, which, I mean, that wouldn't be too bad. If it's just her alone with a dancey song, that would look a bit silly. And if it's, like, too many people behind her all just getting their groove on, again, that wouldn't necessarily work. I'm sure they'll find... I expect clever camera tricks with this one to make it look like the couple behind her are dancing on the walls or something, or maybe they will be. Maybe by then France will have invented anti-gravity dancing shoes. I wouldn't put it past them at this point. No, seriously. And so we get to my ratings out of 10. Personal score, 10. For the moment, this is my favourite song of the lineup. I do expect that to change, of course, but for now, it's current, it's catchy, it's fun, and it's a solid offering. Between this and Amir last year, it's definitely enough to reignite a fair amount of faith in France's hopes for the future of the contest, which is good and encouraging. I just wish there had been a bit more of a build-up of hype before they announced the song. Like I said, as it is, it just sort of felt out of nowhere. I mean, sure, it stole Germany's thunder, in more ways than one. But, I mean, just a random article on Eurovision.tv in the middle of the afternoon? You can do better, France. The song itself is proof of that. Technical score out of 10? Another 10. I'm sorry, I feel like I must have missed something in order to have awarded a perfect 20, the first perfect 20 of the year, to this song. But honestly, I can't find any substantial faults that knock it down at all. The worst I can think is, it's a bit repetitive towards the end if you're not too patient, but I mean, Europe clearly is, and her voice needs a little bit of training, which can and will happen. So yeah, there is nothing I could think of that would justify lowering that score at all. It's a very good song. France, like I said, go hard or go home, and they are not going home. Now, the ever-present comparison to their previous entry. Oh, France, why do you make it so difficult? I could take the easy path and say, oh, well, I gave Amir a 9 out of 10 last year and 20 out of 20 to this year's songs. This year must be better. But the 9 out of 10, that was how I felt when the song was chosen and when it was revamped, if it can be called that. And my tastes may or may not have changed since then. To oversimplify it, on one hand, Amir had broader appeal with a song, but the hook could have been iconic for some people and irritating for others, and on the other hand, Alma has a fun, dance-worthy song that has a slightly narrower appeal, I think, comparatively, and her voice needs a little bit of work. Overall, I don't know. I'll give it to Alma, but let it be known that this could easily have gone either way, and I don't mean that to discredit this song. They are both brilliant songs. Clearly, France's Head of Delegation is a man to be feared. In a good way. But yeah, ask me again next week, and I might have completely changed my mind. France is riding high at the moment, and they are, like I said, both really good songs. It is so hard to choose a favourite, a better one. They're both great. So I'm basing this decision mostly on personal tastes, and also, I guess part of me just likes the lyrics of this one more. I can't fully rationalise that though, but... Now, if it were competing in the semi-finals instead of just giving a performance that no one on TV is going to see, because that's how Eurovision rolls as of last year, would it qualify? For once in this series, I can give a definitive answer in the moment, instead of being vague and wishy-washy. This would almost definitely qualify. Well, if it had to. That is based on the assumption that her performance in Kiev will be better than the one that I saw, granted, but I have faith that she'll be able to polish everything up by then. So the song's catchy, stylised, and a delight to listen to. What could possibly go wrong? Well, they did say that they're going to present a final Eurovision edit of the song in due course, but it's already 3 minutes long, so I don't really know what changes they have in mind. Then again, J'ai Cherché received the same treatment last year, and it didn't change all that noticeably. They just cut it down to the right length, and of course this song doesn't need that, so I'm not too worried about you, France. And in fact, you know what, I'm really proud of you, because you haven't had the best history in the contest, especially in recent years. As a Brit who is slightly French, I feel all of the shame for all the bad things that have happened with our countries and their placings in the contest. But France is picking themselves up and showing that it doesn't matter which country you are, you can still do very well at the contest. And so for that, I say, bon courage à la France. We will see you in Kiev, hopefully to another really impressive final score.